We're going to move on now because we mentioned data earlier on, and I said that earlier this month we had a data challenge in the city. So I'm going to ask Josh from the Data Lab to join us here to talk about some of the successful projects that happened as part of this innovation challenge. Okay, thank you, Josh.
Okay. Yes, thank you very much. So I'm Joshua Reinshart. I work at the Data Lab, and I was here last year as well, just doing a 5-minute presentation. And I was just chatting to my colleague Amy before I came on, and she said, actually, last year at the end of your 5-minute talk, you said, wouldn't it be great if we had like an Edinburgh tourism hackathon? And one of the rare occasions in which I followed through on a promise, we did. So I'm really delighted to be able to talk about that today. So it was the Edinburgh Tourism Innovation Challenge. It took place about 3 weeks ago. And at the event last year, this exact event, I gave that talk, and then about 4 or 5 people came up to me and were saying, well, we thought about this already, let's do it. And it's been a really interesting, exciting year. The idea was we wanted to bring together people from the tech industry with the tourism professionals to help develop new data products for the city of Edinburgh. Come up with new ideas, trial some new things out, just really experiment, see what data can do for Edinburgh. And we think it's been a really big success. So here are just a list of some of the partners. We wouldn't have been able to do this if it wasn't for funding from both Scottish Enterprise and sponsorship from InTechnology Wi-Fi. And InTechnology Wi-Fi, the provider of Wi-Fi data across the city, also provided some of the data, and I think the first time that data has been accessed by the tech community here in Edinburgh. We had some data from footfall around the city, from City of Edinburgh Council. We had data very welcome received from the Edinburgh Festival City API. Marketing Edinburgh provided their Google Analytics data, and a range of other organisations, Visit Scotland, Skyscanner, which is used by John as well in that great project we heard about earlier. And as you can see here, a range of really exciting partners, and there was even more. So we got all of the data together. We started to work with a great organisation called Product Forge, who run these events. So basically, what we did is we brought together, there was 120 people over the whole weekend, and we had about 60 to 70 data scientists or computer scientists all working together. We had a lot of mentors from the tourism industry across a range of different organisations. And then on the Thursday night, we had a very chaotic episode trying to form interesting teams, which was good. And then at the end of that, we had 16 teams. So these 16 teams then sat together. On the Friday, they started thinking about, well, what's going to be useful? What type of thing is going to be useful for the Edinburgh tourism industry? What sort of things can we develop that are going to solve some of the problems that we all share? So those teams sort of looked at the data, they started talking to some of our tourism expert mentors, and at the end of that day, they did a little pitch to us saying, this is what we think is a good idea. And they were all pretty good ideas. On the Saturday, a lot of those ideas changed, but they started to develop them further, start to conduct some initial data analysis, and then on the Sunday, they pitched to a team of our mentors, and then the top 4 teams gave a longer presentation to a team of judges, including Roger Halliday, the chief data scientist for the Scottish Government, Polly Purvis, who's the chair of Scotland IS. But I'm probably going to move on to the next slide, because rather than hearing about the ideas from me, who like I said, doesn't have the best conception of it, we're very fortunate to have 5 of what I thought were some of the best ideas and best teams with us today.
In any case, we are Team Geisa, and we basically spent the weekend talking to people in the tourism industry, and we heard one consistent pain point, that the data was out there, but its value was not reaching them. As it happens, analyzing data is hard, and not that many entities have the resources and manpower to tackle that analysis. We want to do that analysis. We want to gather resources, a lot like the people from St. Clyde University talked about, gather different data sources, collate them and cross-reference them to find a new way to look at the tourism industry. And we want to translate that into accessible articles and insights that the decision makers, the business owners, that form the patchwork of the Edinburgh tourism industry can use to inform their decisions and get to better know their customers, their tourists, their users, their market, and the industry that they're part of. That's a little mock-up of the web dashboard we envision. Okay. Yeah, we envision an online dashboard to which we would regularly upload articles containing visualizations, tools, interactive things that anyone can access and anyone can consult to understand their business better and to guide their decisions. As an example of the kind of content that we would upload, we had a chance to analyze 8 years of daily sales of tourism, daily ticket sales for Edinburgh Castle. A little machine learning revealed this seasonal pattern, and it's no surprise. We know Edinburgh tourism is highly seasonal, and you can see the 8 high seasons and the 8 low seasons. But you can also see this section here with these 2 bursts of activity during the off-season. An 86% increase in visitor numbers during Bonfire Night and 107% during St. Andrew's Day. We were later told that St. Andrew's Day is free entrance to the castle. The data is the same, but yeah, I'd love to have access to their gift shop sales data. That'd be interesting. You can get to the gift shop without buying a ticket. Yeah. We also took a look at this long-term pattern in the tourism industry, so removed from the year-to-year seasonality. And that's insight that perhaps the public sector or investors in the private sector might find very useful to guide the decision-making. Whereas perhaps the instance above would be better given to, say, coffee shop owners or tour operators, so that they can brace themselves for the sudden but predictable burst of activity, which, again, we can quantify. We only had a couple of days to analyze this data, but amongst other things, we observed this unexplained random fluctuation. But that's one of the things that we hope to add to this discussion of value in data by remaining as a place of analysis. At a later date, we might discover that this fluctuation is explained by weather and that the daily drops and peaks are sunny and rainy days. If that happened, we would update the article to provide lasting value to our readers. And this is just a start. We hope to provide high-level overviews and granular analysis, and we, a lot like John described, we hope to analyze many sources of data. Just during the weekend, we were able to take a look at footfall, foot traffic data across the city, and see how roadworks affected how people were moving around the city. We were able to look at Wi-Fi sign-ons and use that as a proxy for how much activity was happening in different areas throughout the day. And we uncovered some interesting patterns in hotel booking data. Amongst other things, people book further ahead if they're traveling with children, unless they're Swiss. Yeah. Data can be scary, but insights shouldn't be. And that's sort of the second thing that we want to bring to this discussion, because we want to leverage our background in design and teaching to put the users and their experience as our head concern. Because the data is out there, most of you have some, and the tools to analyze it exist. But it's about putting that analysis and its value in the hands of people so they can use it. In terms of a business model, so to speak, we don't really have one, but we would look to partner with the public sector and private sector, a lot like what's done during the hackathon, to have access to their data, and we would like to have a discussion with them regarding what kind of data they're willing to share and what they expect to receive back. And going towards a more long-term approach, we could provide access to our machine learning, our data pipelines, all our analysis that we would do as part of our publications through API calls so that people can jumpstart an application or a website or a service without having to perform that analysis in-house. And we would very much consider to replace a subscription service with businesses simply sharing their data. In many ways, a coffee shop telling us how many espressos they sell on every Monday of the month is much more valuable to us than £10 or something along those lines. Yep. Thank you very much.
So yeah, thank you ever so much for tracking. That was brilliant. I thought it was really interesting because it's We know that the tourism industry, of course, is dominated by a lot of small and medium enterprises, and actually just accessing some data trends is going to be really useful. But next I'm going to invite Angus from the A team to talk about what they did over the weekend.
I'm Angus, and there was supposed to be the presenter here, but couldn't make it. We identified one problem on the weekend that the industry experts all mentioned over and over again, which was that visitors all go to the same places. So Edinburgh Castle and the Royal Mile are absolutely cram-packed, putting huge strain on resources there. Whereas attractions and bars in Leith, for example, don't get the same benefit from the tourists that come to Edinburgh. Another problem we've realised was there are 338 apps just with the word Edinburgh in them. So we didn't want to make another app. Also, I don't know, I went to Berlin a few weeks ago and I didn't even look at the App Store. So we decided to try and really get away from the whole app idea. Sorry. But we decided to make Pushed, which we utilise the physical web to help city visitors avoid crowds, discover new places, and spread the love to small businesses, all without downloading another app. And this is based on beacons, which was discussed earlier. And we would lay these out across the city, and then they would just beam a URL with an attached ID to them. So we can know exactly where the user is. And they would click on this URL, and thanks to the free Wi-Fi by Technology Wi-Fi, it'll take us to our platform, which is customized based on the ID that's given. So I've got a short video, I think, which hopefully will play. Maybe. Nope. Oh, yeah. So this was, we set up an actual beacon on the weekend, and this is a recording from my phone on the Sunday, which we... Media unavailable. Brilliant. Okay. Well, the user was on the Royal Mile. A notification came up from the beacon we set up, and it comes up with a map with the sort of attractions on it. And the user clicked on Edinburgh Castle, which takes you to a page. And you can see on the page that Edinburgh Castle is really busy right now from real-time data, but it's going to get quieter later. So you can try some of these more unknown locations, which are, you can see how full they are at the time. Yeah. And then you can claim rewards. So small businesses that want to attract tourists to them can then offer rewards and say, right, if you go to Leith Theatre, we're just around the corner, so how about 20% off if you go to Leith Theatre? And they can then go to Leith Theatre, click on our platform again, and the ID will know that then they are at Leith Theatre, and they will get a code which they can then go to bars and restaurants, maybe near their Airbnb or near the attractions, and try and spread them out and attract them to the smaller businesses. And this was the platform that we made in the Saturday, I think we made. But yeah, so I was supposed to talk over this video. So, but yeah, the plan is to try and use real-time data from the users. These beacons, you do have to turn on a setting, but with IoT, there's sort of some smart fit watches use beacon technology. So once you turn it on, it's on, and you can get these notifications. They don't buzz you all the time. They're in your dashboard, so you swipe down and you can see them. And the next video, I'm out of time, but the next video just shows you them getting a code. So that's me done, I think.
I mean, it's amazing what you can get done over a weekend. I can't actually quite believe how much you did manage to achieve in that weekend. But that's a really good, a really great idea.
Okay, so a lot of the challenges that were faced during this hackathon were the problem of congestion around tourist-heavy parts of cities. And Edinburgh, in particular, you have places like the Royal Mile, and that's not necessarily problem with Edinburgh yourself. Every city has a tourist area. However, that's not totally representative of where tourists actually stay. Ideally, we looked at the Airbnb data. Airbnb alone has almost I can't remember what the number was because the slide's not in front of me, but there are almost 10,000 Airbnbs, all spread out around the city, in various so-called city villages like Bruntsfield and Dean Village and Leith. So the idea that we were considering is, as opposed to changing the behavior of tourists themselves, or not even necessarily tourists, locals as well, we should consider the behavior of the businesses and how they attempt to expose themselves to attracting more customers. So places like cafes and pubs and breweries, they don't normally consider themselves as tourist businesses. Oh, this looks very promising. So you'll need to skip ahead a couple of slides.
You can skip across the screen.
Oh, brilliant. Okay, whoever's in charge, stop. So I already talked about these must-see attractions, which are heavily congested. So this is what I was talking about. There's 10,000 listings and there's almost 40,000 guests. That's pretty. I can't remember what the granularity of this was. I think it was either per year or per day. So as you can see, everybody's spread out. So what our mission is to have people stay for breakfast or for evening pints around their accommodation, as opposed to staying around the city centre. That would make and that would increase the visibility in order to increase the visibility of these businesses. We had to consider something else. My name is Alexia. I draw maps. Sarah does the Scottish beer tours. Go on her beer tours; they're awesome. So what we need to do is to take a look at what these businesses are currently doing with themselves in terms of online presence. So if you say Google, search for Google for, say, I don't know, lunch in Bruntsfield or breakfast in Bruntsfield, you're gonna get a whole bunch of listings. But in Bruntsfield you have a place, for example, say like Project Coffee. It's not going to be listed near the top because they have not claimed their business on Google. They have not listed their own website, nor do they follow the rules that Google specified that they should be following in order to gain a higher visibility. So what we want to do is make these businesses consider for themselves what they could do, because all the information out there is very easily available to them, and there's all this work that's, what am I to say? There's also information available, but they do not understand why they need this information. So if we tell them, if we expose them to the data that's available around them, say the local populations, or how many tourists are staying around them, perhaps we can consider that these businesses will take all this data into account and hopefully implement Google Data Insights and various other online platforms like Yelp and TripAdvisor, so that they have a greater exposure. This is what I was talking about. Project Coffee are nowhere near the Google results, and that's because they haven't claimed their business. The way we want to market this is by utilizing digital platforms. Digital platforms really need more businesses to use them, like TripAdvisor and Google. Local organizations will also benefit from this. as well as skills development sites. We can start running workshops for local businesses in order to get them up to speed on what they should be doing with their online presence. Yeah, sure. So in order to increase the visibility of local villages, we're a local vision. We can scale and we can scale out this local vision to other cities really easily once we get a model going in Edinburgh. Sorry for going over time.
Thanks very much, Alexi. I thought it's a really exciting project, that, and it makes help businesses that may not consider themselves as tourism businesses to actually develop their own presence on the web so they can actually take advantage of all those dispersed tourists across the city. So I think it's a great idea. Some brilliant analytics went beneath that over the weekend. So do chat to Alexi later on. So next I'm going to invite Erin from True Scott, who are actually the winners of the hackathon.
Hi. So, everyone, let's take a moment and remember what it's like to be on the Royal Mile in the middle of August. This overcrowded is an understatement, and locals are beyond frustrated. The population of tourists are growing exponentially every single season. But if you just wander about 15 minutes outside the city into, say, Leith, like Angus was speaking about, you can move, you can walk, you can breathe. It's not that much different from pre-August time. We aim to tackle the Edinburgh peak season city centre congestion with a game. True Scott is a gamification of the Edinburgh tourist experience, incentivizing visitors to explore the outer reaches, the outer neighborhoods of Edinburgh, by assigning points to different attractions, pubs, and restaurants, etc., based on their popularity and the distance from the city centre. So this is how it works. So if I, Erin, the tourist, arrive in Edinburgh, I can log on to my True Scott app. I can plan my visit. So I know, as a tourist of today, I'm motivated by finding those local, authentic experiences, but I want to see the main attractions as well. You have to see the castle, come on. So I see on the map that I can get 10 points for going to, say, the Scott Monument. And when I accept that challenge, I look a little bit further, and I see there are quite a few 50-point locations out in Leith, near the Royal Yacht Britannia, which was also on my list for the main attractions. So I hop on the Lothian bus, and I head out there, collect my 25 points at Royal Yacht Britannia, and I'll see that when I do that, I've leveled up within the app. Now I'm at Wee Scott. But instead of going back to the city centre, I'll stay a bit longer in Leith and share with my social network that I'm getting 50 points on True Scott for grabbing a pint at Leith's Brass Monkey Pub. So with our primary research that we conducted that weekend, alongside the data and the research from the industry, we found that tourists overwhelmingly value those local hidden gems as much, if not more so, than the main attractions themselves. And our target, the millennial tourist gamer, they're highly driven by the social aspect of playing. I looked into some gamification and tourism research about that, and that means that they are more likely to share their experience on social media. That's great for the small businesses we're encouraging them to visit. It's organic social media reach for them. So in the short term, we want to develop this user base, really get this out, and all the locations, the attractions, et cetera, there'll be challenges with points, and then the users can amass those points, compete on the leaderboard, climb the levels, aiming to climb all the way up to True Scott within the duration of their stay. We want it to be manageable, realistic, because it's for their holiday. Long term, we want sponsored quests. I love this part, because it could be categorical. So say I'm a gin lover, so if I want to get the Mother's Ruin Award, you can go to 3 different gin experiences in your stay. So you could throughout your holiday, you go to Edinburgh Gin Tours on Princess Street and be incentivized to move a bit further, go to the Jolly Botanist, a local gin favorite in Haymarket, then head down to Summer Hall for Pickerings. And that could go across many different industries as well. And a great feature we like to develop long-term is real-time data analytics, being able to manipulate the point system in real-time correlation with the city center congestion. So True Scott's a fun, explorative, interactive game for tourists to really discover everything about Edinburgh. It will boost small business economy, increasing traffic across the city, reduce city center congestion, and be able to produce really valuable tourist data analytics and just show tourists how lovely local can be. So thank you so much. It's new, we're just off of the Edinburgh Innovation Challenge, and we really want to hear some feedback from you guys about the product. It's still in its infancy and we're developing it now. So we have made some feedback forms that when you leave the theater, my team members and I will be passing out. We'd love if you had some time today to complete it and just turn it into the reception desk whenever you get a chance. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll talk to you soon.
I think I've got that Mother's Ruin Award, actually, so that's already winning. The final one is Turfa from the team, Team Forge Plus, last but certainly not least.
Good morning, everyone. Hope you had a very stress-free journey this morning. If you didn't, we might have something for you today, the Pulse of Edinburgh. So what does Pulse of Edinburgh gives you? It gives you to feel the pulse of the city, what's happening around you, when and where you need the most, and help you choose your crowd wisely. Now, I would like to take you through some scenarios, or I would like to call them inspirations, why we really want to solve some of the challenges presented by overcrowding, and most importantly, for whom. Rugby match at Murrayfield, 70,000 fans in my neighborhood, amazing carnival experience for fans and then the curious travelers, but it's a nightmare for elderly, disabled, and the family with the small kids. So we believe the group on the left may want to avoid the crowd, but the group on the right may definitely want to join the party. Inspiration number 2, major incident happens in the city. Emergency service trying to save lives, but guess what? We get in the middle of that way. And we believe the group on the left should avoid the area at any cost. Scenario number 3, a unique experience that happens in Edinburgh. Still a challenge for elderly, disabled, and the family with the small kids, but there is an opportunity for curious travelers, locals, or tourists to experience the authentic experience. So we believe that there are many scenarios where overcrowding presents challenges as well as opportunities. And we hope to help you feel the pulse, what's happening around you, when and where you need the most, and so that we can help you choose a crowd wisely. Now, let me show you a quick demo. So a major incident happens in the city. You get a quick notification. Tap, it will help you navigate where to go, where to avoid, how to go there. Second example, unique event happens in the city. Depending on where you are, you get a notification again to join or not to join. I need to help you navigate. So our goal is to help visitors and locals explore the city safely and stress-free, at the same time having those delightful experiences and enlightening experiences. Thank you for listening.
So as you can see, there's been some really, really exciting, really interesting, great projects that could really benefit the Edinburgh tourism industry, but as you've seen from the final one as well, but people more generally around the city. So now we have only a little bit of time left as my part, but I do want to introduce something that I think will be of interest to a lot of you as well. So we have a website called edinburghtourismchallenge.com. On there you can see the 11 other teams that produce some really good stuff as well, so please do have a look at it. Ourselves with ETAG and Scottish Enterprise have pulled together what is going to be now a very small grants program. So following this, rather than letting these ideas go out there and not potentially get support, we want to encourage really creative, first sort of initial ideas to use data in the Edinburgh tourism industry. So we have projects for value up to about £3,000 per project, which will be launched today. So if you go to that website, you'll be able to see the guidance for how to apply. And if you are perhaps a tourism business or an organisation or even a public sector partner and you want to be using data a little bit better, then perhaps you could have a look at this, see some of the teams that have been part of this challenge, find other data scientists and think about how you could do a very quick, sharp, small project that could demonstrate the value of data for the city. We have we'll then review them in January and finally we'll showcase them in DataFest, the best data conference in Edinburgh coming up in March. So we had the challenge weekend. The conference today has launched the innovation funding call and the money will be awarded in January with a showcase in March. So do have a look, do come speak to me or my colleague Amy if you want to find out a little bit more. And none of this would have happened if it wasn't for the support of ETAG, but also from Scottish Enterprise and from the support for Hackathon from In Technology Wi-Fi. So the three key challenges we think for this particular industry. One is around forecasting. So we'd like to see projects around forecasting number of visitors, who's coming, why. As you've seen, a lot of interesting projects there about navigation around the city and planning, but also discovery of new, interesting, exciting destinations. We know Edinburgh's got a huge amount to offer. Some of it is very much utilised, some of it is underutilised. So how can we use data to drive these sorts of outcomes? This is quickly the criteria that we're using to evaluate the projects. Is it addressing a real challenge? Are you using exciting data? And if you do want to access data, then some of the data sets that we had for the event will potentially be accessible to help you to think of your project, as long as it has a positive impact for Edinburgh and that it's achievable within the sort of 3 to 4 month timescale we want to see. Again, only a really initial stage. 4 final points. We really want to see interesting partnerships between the tech sector and the tourism sector. I think when I say copy, don't just steal IP, but copy the best ideas across the world. There's some really good projects that are taking place everywhere. And do have a look at those ideas and think about how they can be implemented here. Sort of be open around the use of the data and who could potentially bring success to your project, but also, and crucially, experiment. Let's see what works, let's see what doesn't. So thank you ever so much for hearing about all these great projects. Do please speak to all of those teams. They've done some amazing things over a very short space of time. So do contact them and visit the website if you're interested in being part of this. So thank you very much and I hope to speak to you later on.
Okay, again, there's a lot to take in there. But I think it was Mycheka said, the line I took, data can be scary, but insights shouldn't be. And you're getting this theme coming out in the morning that data is the future, and it's how we understand it, how we use it, and actually how we take advantage, in the best way of the term, of the tech and developer community in the city. Because the thing I think I took from the Tourism Challenge project was that actually the developer community is very much creatives. They're creatives. And we're moving away from that idea of developers as transactional, that you would just go to developers and say, I want a website, here's the money, build me a website or an app. It's actually, what's your problem, what's your issue? And collectively and together, we can actually solve that problem using data as one of the fundamental elements of solving those issues.